Welcome everyone to this weekly edition of the Two Saints podcast show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. I hope everybody's keeping safe and well out there, in the Saints fraternity. So, everything's great, mate. Looking forward to today's show.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's going to be a busy one.
Yeah, pretty packed podcast today. So coming up in today's podcast for you, we've got Saints club news, other football news, and Saints transfer news and gossip. So quite a packed show, as Mark said. So we will be right back after a very brief break, and we'll get straight into everything.
It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So Saints club news links. Player awards. We also are covering Danny Ings, humbled by end of season awards, and Danny Ings, a great feeling within the club. So player awards, and the winners in each category were, the winners, the full list of Southampton's 2019-20 award winners were the men's first team, fans player of the season, Danny Ings, goal of the season, Shay Adams, players player of the season, Danny Ings, young player of the season, Will Smallbone, President's Choice Award, chosen by Terry Payne, James Ward-Prowse, Academy Scholar of the Year, Alex Yankovic, women's first team, goal of the season went to Rachel Panting, fans player of the season, Ella Morris, players player of the season, Ella Morris, and Southampton Way Award went to Rachel Panting. And the women's development squad, players player of the season was Jess Tanner, Southampton Way Award was Kitty Cleave, and the Girls Regional Talent Club player of the season was Ellie Head. So there we go. That's the winners in those categories. So we'll come back to those shortly. Danny Ings said he was humbled by the end of season awards. After a standout campaign that included 25 goals in all competitions, Danny Ings was left humbled to collect 2 Southampton end of season awards. He enjoyed his first season as a permanent Saints player, collected both Virgin Media Fans Player of the Season award and Players Player of the Season prize, confirming his telling contribution in 2019-20. He also went on to say, with just 3 weeks to the start of the Premier League campaign, that he's hoping Southampton can benefit from the positive feeling around the club. Ending the 2019-20 campaign with just 1 defeat from their final 9 fixtures, picking up more points in that time than champions Liverpool, Ralph Hasenhüttl's side scored an 11th place to finish. So going back to the player awards, Mark, no real surprise, I expect, that Danny Ings has won what he's won. Probably no real surprise that James Ward-Prowse has been recognised as well. And Will Smallbone probably deserves Young Player of the Year. So probably we're the recipients of all awards, I'd say. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you throw Shay Adams into the mix as well.
Yeah.
For
goal of the season.
Goal of the season. But I think the awards across the board were richly deserved. You could have made an argument because there was some cracking goals scored this season.
Oh yes.
But given the kind of goal that Shay Adams scored and the opposition, would you argue against it? No, you wouldn't.
No, probably not.
Danny Ings, the whole thing with Danny Ings, Fans Player of the Year, Players Player of the Year, both awards never in doubt for me. I mean, you would be hard pushed to pick someone else who's up there with him.
Right.
There's probably, you can pick second and third places, but nobody that was comparable to him this season.
Yeah.
And the James Ward-Prowse one, richly deserved. New club captain, showed his worth after the restart when he was appointed the club captain. Also, and overall during the season, maybe didn't score as many set pieces as you would have hoped. Yeah. But having said that, played every game and made a very, very telling contribution all round. And obviously, the Will Smallbone Award, he's an emerging talent, from the under 23 ranks, and hopefully he will get enough exposure to keep progressing next season.
Yeah, he's certainly shown a lot of promise, hasn't he? Which is great.
Yes. No, and as I say, this one probably will be a more telling season for him because I think he will have greater exposure next season. Yeah, although definitely. I'm still expecting us to bring in a central midfielder.
Yeah, I'm expecting that as well. And obviously we'll get to the transfer news later and we'll discuss some of the targets we've been looking at regards to that. So I think that's a good chance to move on and talking of the future. Saints under-23s report. Saints nil, Wycombe 1. This was the first 90 minutes of the new season, which took place at St Mary's on Friday afternoon as Championship side Wycombe edged out Southampton's under-23s 1-0. The game was evenly fought throughout. It was eventually decided by a 58th minute header from Alex Samuel via a corner. Saints' starting 11 featured many of the likes who spent last season out on loan, notably Alfie Jones, Josh Sims and Tom O'Connor. Several of the under-23 regulars from last season also started, with Will Ferry and Dan and Lundaloo forming 2/3 of the attack. So nice to see them back, and nice to know they got off to a good start, and nothing to be ashamed of losing 1-0 to a full-strength Wycombe side, Mark.
No, I mean, given the fact that we started with a very, very strong under-23 side, right? You know, as you mentioned, Tom O'Connor played, you know, one or two other individuals, Alfie Jones played, you know, and they're all coming back from loan spells. And obviously you had Josh Sims and Jake Hesketh who also played. Yeah. You know, and you throw, like you're saying, you throw Will Ferry and Dan Leludu into the mix, you know, and that's a strong side. You know,
and also,
to start off with, the only problem was obviously at half time they decided to change the team around, and you know we had a lot younger players. It was basically an under-18 side, from what I've been told. Yeah, you know, so to lose 1-0 to, you know, the Wycombe Wanderers first team, you know, it was a really good performance, you know, just to lose the 1-0, given that there were so many changes at the start of the second half.
Right. Yeah, and off the back of that, obviously, we'll include the other article that relates to that as well, and that was the under-23s boss, Dave Horseman, labelled his size match with Wycombe at St Mary's as the ultimate pre-season game. And he actually said it was a brilliant pre-season game, one because we've just played a championship team, and the other because the club have allowed us to play here at St Mary's. And the more of these experiences we can get the boys, the better it is for their development. So it's a really good start to pre-season for us. Second half, we had a lot of young scholars playing against championship players. I think it's the ultimate pre-season game, really. The game itself was 50-50. Credit goes to Craig Fleming and Calvin Davis, who've been working with the boys the last couple of weeks. I think you can tell they've taken on the stuff that's been practiced, which is great. So it's really good to hear. Sounds quite positive, and not a bad start to the season for them.
No, it was. I mean, to be fair, it was a kind of good news all round. You know, I mean, obviously it's good for Wycombe to get the work out, but like Horseman said, you know, it was more important, you know, for our players to be playing in that kind of environment at the stadium.
Oh, absolutely right.
And they're playing a team that has just been promoted. I mean, I forgot about it until you read the article. Yeah. You know, I forgot that Wycombe Wanderers are in the championship this season. So, you know, there's no shame in our youngsters losing 1-0 to Wycombe Wanderers.
Well, given it was the first game of the season for them as well, it's fantastic, I think, to be fair. To only lose 1-0 and to have an evenly contested game, which was 50-50 right up until the end of it. So, yeah, fantastic, really. Right, and moving on, the good news keeps coming. The stadium store reopens, so Saints fans can now shop in person at the club's stadium store after it reopened, with great savings on the spring-summer collection. They can get 20% off the full range of spring-summer leisurewear, t-shirts, hoodies, etc. You can explore the full range online via the club website, obviously. The opening hours are 10 to 4 p.m. from Monday to Saturday, and there are ticket representatives available for fans regards to 2020-21 season tickets, although the window obviously is quite a short one on that now, isn't it?
Yes.
So, good news.
Yes, it is good news. And I read today that they've extended the season ticket renewals by 1 day.
Oh, well,
okay, so I think it's the 1st or 2nd of September now.
That's a slight...
Or 3rd of September. And that was down to demand from fans asking for more time, because basically you can only contact the ticket office on the Tuesday and the Wednesday.
It's good to know. It's good to know, Mark, by the sounds of it, that the club are actually listening to the fans, because we don't feel like they've been doing that for a while, do we? So it's good to know It's good to know they seem to be listening to the fans again, which is good.
I'm just reiterating to the supporters out there that obviously the ticket office is only open for telephone calls, just the telephone calls, from 10 till 4 on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Although obviously, you, like you said, you can go down to either of the Saints shops and you can speak to ticket representatives in the shop.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. Right, so we'll move on to another story, which I think is really good. Great for these two. They certainly deserve it after their performances this season. The fact that Danny Ings and James Ward-Prowse have both been called up for England for the upcoming Nations League friendlies, Mark, which is great news for both of them. Thoroughly deserved after their rich training form they've both been in and the contribution to the club this season. So they've got their just reward, I think. Let's just hope that they get through it unscathed and come back without being tapped up or anything. Eh?
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is personally, it's great for the players, and the kudos that comes back on the club, is fantastic too.
Absolutely.
But as a supporter of the club, I have reservations about players being picked for England. Obviously, for the same reasons that we've mentioned, where you're worried about people talking about salaries and stuff like that there. But I mean, I would have thought that the two of them will be totally professional, and hopefully they both come back to the club unscathed during their international duty.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's hope they go there, do as well as Ricky Lambert did on his debut against Scotland, and come back without any issues of any kind, including wanting to leave.
Yes, 100%. Because even though I'm an Irishman, I like to see England do well. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, good luck to them.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, it puts the club on the forefront, having not just one player but two players.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next set of articles. These articles actually are all of a similar nature. So what we'll do is we'll throw these three articles in together, and then we'll go into it in a bit more detail. So that is the 2020-21 squad numbers have been confirmed. Saints welcome Sportsbet.io as main club partner, and Saints CEO Martin Semmens insists the club will find a solution for fans who bought shirts with the original Aldi Sports logo on it. So just to start it off with the squad numbers. So the squad numbers for the men's first team have been confirmed ahead of the new season, and the full list of squad members for 2020-21 is as follows: 1. Alex McCarthy, 2. Carl Walker-Peters, 3. Ryan Bertrand, 4. Yannick Vestergaard, 5. Jack Stevens, 6. Oriol Romeu, 7. Shane Long, 8. James Ward-Prowse, 9. Danny Ings, 10. Shay Adams, 11. Nathan Redmond, 12. Musa Djenepo, 14. Michael Obafemi, 17. Stuart Armstrong, 18. Jan Valery, 19. Sofiane Boufal, 20. Will Smallbone, 22. New signing Mohamed Salisu. I'm not going to say it again because it makes me sound like a bingo caller. Angus Gunn, 28. Jake Vokins, 29. Jan Bednarek keeps his number 35, which he's had since he joined the club. Harry Lewis, 41. And a telling inclusion, 44, Fraser Forster. So that's obviously the squad numbers for this season. The interesting ones there, I would say, Carl Walker-Peters, Mark, number 2 shirt. It seems as though he's definitely first choice now, right back by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
And obviously James Ward-Prowse, number 8 shirt. That's obviously a promotion from this number 16 shirt he's worn.
Yes, indeed.
And obviously Michael Obafemi, number 14 shirt, which is changed now.
Yeah. I mean, the other two I would highlight would be
Oriol Romeu
actually picking up the traditional number 3 shirt for the left back.
Absolutely.
And also Oriol Romeu moving from, I believe it was 14 to 6.
Yeah, you would think that Oriol's probably first choice for that centre midfield berth at the moment, wouldn't you? Ahead of anyone coming in, obviously, that is.
Yeah, no, definitely, So, I mean, obviously everybody's progressing up the food chain in terms of the numbers, but
that's right.
Yeah, it makes for interesting, listening to you. I'll obviously give the numbers out. I mean, one of the telling things was obviously, Fraser is definitely back in the fold, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of who has the number 1 jersey next season,
We are wishing you, Fraser, we're wishing you the best of luck, big man. We hope you rediscover your form that you've had before. And if you do get that jersey back and you deserve it as number 1, then let's hope you keep it. I wish him all the best. I hope he's managed to turn the corner after all the issues that he's apparently had. Obviously, we don't know what those issues were, and we won't go into that. But that got enough coverage. But we do wish him the best, and we hope he gets his form back. So we're wishing you the best, big man.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, the simple matter of the fact is, if he gets the form back to what it was before, Mark, he'll get all the recognition in the world. We've just talked about two Southampton players being called up to the England squad.
Yeah.
That's still an achievable target for me, because I don't think the goalkeeping situation for England's particularly clever. Barring probably Nick Pope, but you look at Jordan Pickford, people like that, they're still prone to mistakes. So, it's all about Fraser getting the opportunity and then being consistent. But the thing is, he's got to try and move Alex McCarthy first.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. I agree with that. Yeah, the thing is with Fraser as well. I mean, when he's fit and he's consistent, he's probably one of the best in the Premier League, and he's probably the best English keeper. When he's fully on his game, and when he's fully on it, he's consistent. He's one of the best. He's certainly one of the best shot stoppers around. Maybe a couple of areas he can work on, and hopefully we've got the right goalkeeping coach to do that. I mean, Ralph certainly thinks that McCarthy's developed under the new goalkeeping coach, so hopefully Fraser will benefit from that as well. And as I say, wish him all the best, really do. It's great to see him back between the sticks and performing as well as we know he can, especially when he's at his best, because he's absolutely brilliant. Right, so moving on to the next article. Saints welcome Sportsbet.io as main club partner. Southampton Football Club is pleased to announce it's signed a 1-year contract with Sportsbet.io to become the new main club partner and front of shirt sponsor for 2020-21 season. For anybody who doesn't know who they are, I think they actually sponsor Watford as well. It's a sportsbook of the Coin Gaming Group, a leading cryptocurrency-based sports betting platform. They pride themselves on an innovative approach to providing a unique service to their customers, both in the UK and abroad. They said that their CEO, Tim Heath, said, absolutely thrilled to announce this sponsorship deal with one of the Premier League's most ambitious teams. The company will feature on the front of the first team and under-23 shirts. They've stepped in at short notice to support the club ahead of the upcoming season. We'll work closely together in the coming weeks to provide the best possible solution for fans who wish to show their support to the team, with the updated shirts, obviously. So Saints Chief Commercial Officer David Thomas commented, we're delighted to welcome Sportsbet as main club partner. They've redefined the online betting space by combining cutting-edge technology with cryptocurrency expertise and a passion for offering its players the ultimate fun, fast and fair gaming experience. Everyone at the club's looking forward to the start of what we hope will be a strong season for Southampton. Very happy that we'll be able to share that journey with Sportsbet, which is really, really good. So great that we've managed to sort the situation out with the sponsor. A lot of fans were really unhappy about the Audi Sports logo. Well, we've got a slightly better looking logo on the front of it, although I know a few fans are upset at the fact that it's a betting company. But the Premier League as it is these days, I guess that's the nature of the beast, Mark, sadly.
Well, I'm going to reserve judgment until you've done the next article.
Okay. So this relates to, obviously, Saints CEO Martin Sedmans has insisted the club will find a solution to the situation regards to fans who've bought shirts with the Audi Sports logo, Mark being one of them, unfortunately for him. Saints Chief Executive Martin Sedmans insists the club will find a solution for fans who bought this season's kit with an Audi Sports logo. Saints obviously announced that they'd ended their relationship with Audi Sports with immediate effect and welcomed Sportsbet as their new main shirt sponsor for the Premier League. The club paused the sale of the club's 3 new kits, but there are already many Saints fans who've purchased a shirt which is now out of date before the season started. In a statement, Saints asked supporters for patience and understanding regarding the complex situation. Speaking to BBC Radio Solent, Sedmans moved to clarify what could be done regarding the out-of-date kits. We had to move quickly, he said. When it comes down to it, we either take a lot of time to find the right solution, tell everybody, or just up front and say this has happened, we move forward. When it comes down to it, if we don't have funds, there's no Kyle Walker Peters or no new signings, so we had to do what we had to. He confirmed, straight after that, we have to make sure our fans can wear the shirt with the right logo on, coming to games and supporting the team when they can. We will find a solution to it, whether it's replacing it or putting a new logo over the top, but we needed a few more days to work that one through. I would think before we start the season, we'll at least be able to tell people what that solution is, and maybe in about 5 or 10 days' time, we can provide that solution. I hope to God it's not simply slapping a logo over the top of the old one, because I think that's absolutely appalling, Mark.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just tell you where I am.
Yep.
I welcome the new sponsorship.
Yep.
You can't survive without some kind of sponsorship.
Absolutely.
You're only here for a year, and I do welcome them, although I'm very guarded about them being a betting company.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I'm not completely comfortable with that, but
no, I get that.
I also. I understand that the club had a short period of time, so therefore, there's no foul, no blame there.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's a betting company, it is what it is. It's for the year, I'm gonna have to get on with it. Just in relation to the shirt, and this might be a little bit long-winded, so bear with me, Mark. Okay.
Okay.
You know, all I would say is that the club knew for 7 or 8 weeks, as far as I'm concerned, right, that there was issues for LD Sports, and they probably knew it before. What I would say is, you know, why weren't the club chasing LD Sports up, you know, at the end of May, which would have been the normal period of time when the season finished? Okay, so you're chasing them up in relation to the money. The idea that the club severed the links, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
All the club did was, you know, we're not working me anymore because there's no money that's been deposited into the bank account. You know, so
Right.
that's just nonsense, you know. But the one thing I would say about it is, right, is, I mean, I've bought a shirt. I'm gonna have to live with it. That's fine, you know. But what I would say is I expect, right, a new shirt with the new logo on it. You know, I don't expect to have a transfer put over the logo and that suffice. You know, I just don't expect that to happen. Period.
No, absolutely.
I mean, if you the other thing that I want to say is, if you go into a restaurant, right, and you ask for a well done steak, right, and it comes out rare, you're not going to be happy.
No, you return it.
But the other thing I want to say is, right, I mean, and I've said this to you before, I'm going to say it again, right, I haven't been comfortable with the sponsorship on the shirt for a while now, right?
Yeah.
Good, well, probably the last 10 years, okay? And I don't like being a sandwich board for companies that I have no connection with. You know, to me, I'm a Saints fan. So the way I look at it is if you're going out and you're buying a shirt that's costing a fair bit of money, which is mass produced, let's be honest, probably costing about a $5, you know, and you're paying top dollar for it. You know, I think fans now should be given the option to whether they want sponsorship on the shirt or just have a plain shirt. Personally, you know, I'm a supporter of the football club. I prefer just to have a plain shirt with no sponsorship on the front at all.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there will be fans that would try and use a counter argument and say, oh wow, but yeah, you know, you've got to accept what the sponsorship is, because, you know, otherwise there won't be sponsorship deals, and then it'll cost you more price. Your tickets will cost you more. You can't use that as an excuse, because we already know, both of us, from the research we've done and from doing the show, Southampton are one of 14 Premier League clubs that can play to an empty stadium and survive on the TV money alone. So nobody can really use the argument of, if you don't have the sponsorship deals, you won't have the money for this, that, and whatever. Well, I'm sorry, that's just a nonsense. So nobody can trot that out as an excuse either.
Also, what I would say is, and this is just on a personal note, you know, if I was given the choice, right, I'd probably be prepared to pay a little bit extra not to have, you know, the sponsor on the shirt, you know, and have it just with the club badge.
Right. I am grateful. At the moment, it costs you less than £60 to get a Saints shirt, so I'm quite grateful for that, because I'm led to believe at the moment that the current Man City home shirt is actually going to set their fans back £122 a pop, and that's just an extortionate amount. So I'm grateful for the fact ours is quite low compared to that cost, but it's still an awful lot of money. And I agree with you. If I had the option of getting a shirt without the logo, I'd buy one without the logo, even if it cost me another £5 or more.
All I want to say on the topic, and then I'm finished, right? It's, I'm a supporter of Southampton Football Club, right?
Yeah,
so I'll go and buy anything that has the badge on there, right? Yeah. And as long as it's got the badge on there, I don't care about the Virgin Media logo, even round the side. Yeah. You know, now we're having the conversation. Let's have a plain shirt.
That's right.
With, you know, the Under Armour, whoever it is that does the shirt, and our badge, and that'll do me. You
Yep,
know,
sure.
I'll even pay the club a bit extra for the privilege.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Definitely agree with you there. Yeah, and Southampton Football Club, if you are listening, do yourselves a favour. Please don't release any more what you call pre-match shirts, because the one you've released at the moment is absolutely hideous, and you've lost out on some money there, because Mark will buy anything with a Saints badge on, except for that one shirt, which is an absolute horror.
The other thing I want to say, Mark, as well, right? And this is where I'm trying to be generous to the football club, is probably, you know, the reason why they produced it early doors and they got it out there, which fundamentally was a mistake, was because in recent years, you know, they've been late getting the kid out. I mean,
That's right.
It has been one disaster. You know, they have lurched in recent seasons from one disaster to the next in terms of the shirt and the kit and things like that.
Right. Yeah, and for me, the only downside to the whole situation with the shirt is the club did so much good work over the period of lockdown before the restart. They did so much hard work during the restart and before that and during the lockdown. And it's all been undone by this really silly situation with the shirt. Not all of it, but it doesn't. Yeah, it's not reflected well on the club, and it's a real shame because they've done so much good during lockdown and during the restart, and it's kind of been a little bit undone by this silly situation with the shirt, hasn't it? Sadly.
Yeah, I agree with that statement 100%, mate. That's well made.
It is what it is. Moving on and talking about strange decisions in this day and age, given what's been happening recently. News that Matt Le Tissier, Charlie Nicholas, and Phil Thompson have been axed from Soccer Saturday. The Southampton legend was a famous face on Soccer Saturday, which has been one of the most popular football shows in the UK for a number of years. And he said, it's time to look forward to life's next challenge after he was axed by Sky Sports. On Wednesday, it emerged Sky have axed the presenter along with Charlie Nicholas and Phil Thompson. He was quick to give his verdict following the news, taking to Twitter to thank fans for their support over the years. He said, enjoyed my time at Sky Sports. Time to look forward to life's next challenge. Thank you for support down the years. Special thanks to the backroom team, which include Kazza Records, Carly Bassett, TV Trev Stats, amongst many others. Good luck all. Have a lovely day. Sky confirmed news on Wednesday night and said, we're changing some parts of our football coverage. Matt, Charlie and Phil have done a great job for us over years. They will leave us with our sincere thanks and very best wishes. Le Tissier had come under fire recently for sharing his thoughts on certain things, including coronavirus and the government response on social media in recent weeks. He urged fans to look beyond the headlines and government propaganda in a lengthy post on Twitter. I don't believe that's actually got anything to do with the reason he's been released. It is literally, I believe, that there's been a shake-up of everything to do with Sky.
And I concur with that. I mean, what I would say is I mean, it's being rumoured that Alex Scott's been approached because the problem with Soccer Saturday is it's a little bit like the old Boys Network.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know. And while I wouldn't have ditched Matt Lattez, and I probably would have ditched somebody like Paul Merson, because you know I've reserved judgment on how much he actually knows about football, even though he's an ex-professional. But having said that, Mark, what I would say is it's a sad day personally for clubs. You know, when we're talking about Premier League coverage, right? Yeah. It's on Sky. It's a sad day for clubs outside the top six, right? And when it comes to Matt, it's a sad day for clubs along the south coast.
Oh, absolutely right. Absolutely
right. The thing is he always sort of, you know, in recent seasons, he's always championed sort of. Obviously, ourselves, there's a bias there, but he's always championed Brighton, Bournemouth, and clubs like that. And the thing is the danger with Sky now is, even though we're going to have a diverse panel, right? Because, you know, hopefully there'll be a few more females employed and, you know, people from black or, you know, black background or something like that.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I just think it's the right way to go, but I wouldn't have got rid of Matt Lattez. I mean, I just think we're getting to the stage now with media where it's all about the top six, and that's all they'll talk about. And I've read that Jeff Stelling's actually thinking about packing up Soccer Saturday as well.
Well, actually, I was just going to say, in summary for me, just to finish off the article and just bring it to a close for me personally, Jeff Stelling actually did write on Twitter, one of my saddest days ever at Sky Sports with the departure of 3 of my best mates. They've been part of a team that for me was the best. So if he's actually decided to step down as well, I don't blame him. And I agree with you. Letting Matt go, I think, is an error. I think it's just a case of they're bringing in a different demographic and a younger demographic and a more diverse demographic. And I think that's it. And that sums it all up for me.
And the thing is though, us as a programme would say that's right and proper, though. It is right and proper, mate.
Absolutely right.
That it has to move on because it is the old boys network.
Yeah, actually agree with you there. And that statement from Jess Denning just pretty much confirms that. And that brings us brilliantly to the end of that section of the podcast for today. So we're just going to take a very short break. When we come back from that, we'll be getting into other football news.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saint Show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Right, welcome back, everybody. Other football news. Egan signs new Sheffield United deal. Dunk signs 5-year Brighton contract. Leicester City, Nampalys Mendy and James Maddison sign new contracts. Jamie Vardy, Leicester striker, extends his Fox's contract. Ben Chilwell, Chelsea signed Leicester defender on 5-year deal. Quartet agree Crystal Palace contract negotiations. And the article before that is actually Rodrigo Moreno. Leeds United agreed to sign Valencia striker. Newcastle, Matty Longstaff signs new 2-year contract. Victor Lindelof, Man United defender, thanked by Swedish police for catching thief. Championship news, Norwich signed Hujul from West Ham. Swan signed Wolves, Gibbs White on loan. Derby County EFL charges over spending rules dismissed. EFL All Championship League 1 and League 2 games made available to view. Charlton Athletic fans occupied boardroom in protest at the Valley. Plough Lane AFC Wimbledon to ground share at QPR till stadium completed. Scottish football news, Celtic Neil Lennon confirms Motherwell talks to David Turnbull. No testing for lower league clubs. European football, Henrik Larsson appointed at Barcelona. Lionel Messi hands in Barcelona transfer request. Fans to be allowed into UEFA Super Cup. And women's football, Women's Super League, Arsenal versus Reading, live on BBC Red Button on the first weekend. So, Ben Egan, I believe, yes,
John
signed.
Egan.
Sorry, John Egan. Ben Egan. Don't know where I got Ben from. Right, so, Sheffield United defender John Egan has signed an improved contract which keeps him with the club till 2024. Direct quotes from Chris Wilder were, "It's a reward for the influence John has on the team and at the football club. He's been part of our climb over the last 2 years. He's been outstanding and taken his game to the next level." Egan himself said, "The last 2 years have probably been the most successful of my career. To sign new contracts, brilliant. I'm really looking forward to the future. Love my time here. Won promotion in the first year. Had a really good first season back in the Prem. So now it's about building on that and improving." There we go. So good news for them.
So,
and obviously, Republic of Ireland defender. So good news for the Republic of Ireland as well.
What I would say, Mark, is obviously I think he's richly deserved a new contract.
Yep.
I mean, Jack O'Connell, who's one of the mainstays, centre halves, he got injured early doors in the season, and John Egan's very much came to the fore.
Definitely a big break for them, but great that they had him on board.
The Blades signed him from Brentford 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, about £4 million, I believe.
He was a quality actor because he got them, virtually into the playoffs. So, good news if you're a Blades fan. Definitely good news.
Yeah, moving on to Brighton. Brighton captain Lewis Dunk signed a new 5-year contract with the club. 28-year-old England international. We're absolutely delighted Lewis has made this long-term commitment for the club, said head coach Graham Potter. He's been a joy to work with and he's a top player. Leads by example on the pitch and he's a good lad off it. We're lucky to have him. Dunk actually said, "I'm delighted to have signed a new contract. His new deal keeps him with the Seagulls till the summer of 2025. The aim now is to help the club continue its recent progress over the next 5 years," is what he said. So great news for them as well. And obviously he was touted as moving elsewhere. So it's good that they've tied him down and warded off some of the other bigger clubs that are possibly looking at him up.
Yeah, 100%. Plus, obviously, he's a supporter of Brighton. So, it's probably one of those, do I need to go anywhere else? I'm playing for the club I supported.
That's right.
But obviously, there was bigger clubs looking at him, and, he's been moted for England. I think he might have even been called up at one stage. Might be wrong. But, good solid player, and obviously the fact that he signed for them again, it's good news if you're a Brighton, you support the Seagulls, you're a Brighton fan,
Absolutely. And bags of experience, and you can't put a price on that. Well, you can, but obviously not high enough that he's wanted to leave. So good news for them, definitely.
100%.
Right, so good news coming out of Leicester for Leicester fans, Leicester City midfielders James Maddison and Nampalys Mendy have signed new contracts with the club. England international Maddison's agreed a 4-year deal. 28-year-old Frenchman Mendy signed a 2-year extension. Brendan Rodgers said, "The more I've seen of him, the more impressed I've been." That's regards to Mendy. To have someone with his experience, quality and maturity is a big boost for us, especially with European football next season. Maddison, who made his England debut in November, said, "It was an incredibly exciting time to be a Foxes player. With so many positive things happening on and off the pitch, I'm delighted to be a part of that," he said. "What we've achieved as a club this season is a huge step forward for us, and I know there's so much more to come from the team." So good news for them.
Yeah, I'll reserve judgment until you've done the next article as well.
And obviously, the other news that came out of Leicester City was the fact that Jamie Vardy's agreed a new deal that will keep him at the club till 2023. So he's 33 years old currently. He's been rewarded with a 1-year extension that takes him up to 2023. "It's a special feeling to be able to commit my future to Leicester City once again," Vardy said. "Love playing my football in front of our fans at the King Power Stadium. Delighted to continue that journey at such an exciting time for the club. We have a fantastic team I believe is capable of getting even better, and I can't wait to see what we can achieve together in the next few years." That's pretty much all he had to say on that. And not an awful lot forthcoming from Brendan Rodgers on that, which is a bit of a surprise. You'd expect Brendan Rodgers to make some sort of quote, wouldn't you? Anyway,
so just to recap on what's happened. I mean,
and also there is one other Leicester article to add in there, obviously, Mark, which we almost overlooked there, which is the news that Chelsea have signed the Leicester defender Ben Chilwell on a 5-year deal for £45 million. So we'll get to the direct quotes for those after you finished about Jason Vardy and the other Jamie Vardy and the other two.
Okay, so basically, I'll do it all in one hit, mate. To be honest.
Okay.
So the Mendy obviously plays in this one of the central midfield roles, and obviously he goes about his business fairly quietly for me. But obviously the big one really is tying James Maddison down to a new contract. I mean, there's loads of clubs higher up the pyramid again, that are after him, and he signed a new contract. I mean, I genuinely think he got injured in the first restart game, and I do think that affected Leicester's ability to qualify, for the European games. So to have him sign a new contract, is vital, obviously, for them to try and push forward again next season. And if you're a Foxes fan, you'd be very pleased about that. Similarly, Jamie Vardy still knows where the goal is. Age isn't a barrier for me as long as you know where the goal is in the top flight.
It's quite clearly evergreen.
Sadly, he beat Danny Ings to the coveted golden boot and that. But again, if you're a Foxes fan, it's good news there. And then we'll come to the last article, Ben Chilwell. This one confused me, mate.
In your fairness, do you think he's overrated for 45 million quid? Because I think he probably is.
Yeah,
there probably are better left backs out there.
He is for me. I mean, but then I suppose, see, this confuses me, Mark, right? We're meant to have had COVID, right? And people aren't meant to have money to spend.
Yeah.
You see a deal like this and you think, well, that's a load of nonsense. Straight away, people are just,
absolutely.
You sort of sit there and you think, I mean, look, obviously the powers that be at Chelsea have seen potential, right?
Yeah.
Leicester sat there going, he's an up-and-coming England international, and this is the fee we expect, okay? But from what I've seen of them, right, and I'm no expert, I'm not, at the end of the day, we're here to give our views and, and everything else. But, all I would say is that, for me, he's not worth £45 million. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And he's probably worth round about a solid 25 to 30 million pound, but not 45 million pounds.
I agree with you there, definitely.
No,
well, I mean, I can agree with you.
He struggled. I mean, I'll take the home game out of the equation because it was, bad. But
yeah.
I went to the away game at Leicester, right? and he was fairly quiet. I mean, there wasn't there wasn't a lot going on with him, to be honest with you. I mean, he didn't play. I don't think he played particularly well when we played them. So, and unfortunately, that's the only way I can judge. But obviously, there's people inside the game that thinks he's a better player than I do. But I just think £45 million too much.
Yeah, it seemed a bit steep for me. Anyway, we'll move on from there, and we have got a few few bits of transfer news, but with a few of them, we'll just do obviously the important parts. Leeds United agreed deal to sign Valencia striker, so they've agreed to sign forward Rodrigo Moreno. Spain international had a loan spell with Bolton in 2010-11 and joined Valencia on loan from Benfica in 2014. Scored 59 goals in 220 games. There's not actually any news of what the fee is for him, but obviously, he's gone to Leeds, so they're looking to obviously bolster their options and bolster their attack ahead of obviously the upcoming Premier League campaign.
Yeah, I mean, very, very quickly, probably the only reason why there isn't a fee there is I would have thought it was probably minimal, Mark.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
one of those famous undisclosed fees, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would say it's minimal. I wouldn't say it's a significant fee.
Nothing.
And obviously, Leeds have signed him in terms of attacking options.
Yeah.
Given his goal ratio isn't that bad. So hopefully, for Leeds, he will be a useful acquisition coming into their first season back in the Premier League.
So we'll move on to Crystal Palace and news that they've agreed contract extensions with 4 players: Jeffrey Schlupp, James McArthur, Martin Kelly, and goalkeeper Stephen Henderson. So Ghanaian defender Schlupp's made 97 appearances for them since joining from Leicester in 2017. Scottish midfielder McArthur is entering his 7th season at Selhurst Park, now 32. Former England international defender Kelly has made 145 appearances since his move from Liverpool in 2014. And goalkeeper Henderson, 32, who's represented the Republic of Ireland at underage level, is yet to play for the first team, having signed from Notts Forest in the summer of 2019. So there you go. That's they've not actually disclosed the length of the new deals or anything else to do with those deals, but 4 of them announced as contract extensions, Mark.
All I would say is, obviously, first one to cover very quickly, Stephen Henderson, goalkeeper, and as far as I'm aware, he's the 3rd choice at Crystal Palace. So is what it is. And then the more interesting one for me is probably Jeffrey Schlupp, who I actually rate in the Palace team, because even though he started life, funnily enough, as a winger forward, he's Dutch, came over, I think, from Germany it was, and he actually for a left back, he has a decent goal scoring record really for a left back.
Definitely,
because he was an attacker before.
But he's always caused problems when he's played against us. I'll give him that. He's always been a threat when he's played us.
And then Matthew Kelly, obviously, he was acquired from Liverpool. He's a right back. Again, occasionally comes into the team because I think Joel Ward plays there normally for Crystal Palace at right back.
Yeah.
So again, probably it's a numbers game and they're trying to retain players and everything like that there.
Sure.
And James McArthur, I mean, he's been there for 7 years. He came in from Hamilton Academicals up in Scotland, and he's a good solid pro, plays central midfield, and a decent player. So on the whole, McCarthy, yes. I would say Schlupp, yes. Probably Kelly as a backup, yes. And Henderson, well, yeah. But as I say, nothing too flash from Crystal Palace. Although coming up in next week's show, I see they made a signing today, which we'll discuss next week.
Moving on, Matty Longstaff has signed a new 2-year contract with Newcastle. Matty Longstaff linked with Saints and a few other teams in the Premier League. The 20-year-old, his deal expired this summer, scored 3 goals in 15 appearances last season after coming through the academy. Scored the winning goal in his Premier League debut against Man United in October. It's not a bad debut in the Premier League, was it? But anyway, so he's signed a new 2-year contract extension, new 2-year contract. So good news for Newcastle fans. I'm sure they're pretty happy they kept hold of him.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say, Mark, is, obviously it's the media,
Yep.
press speculation, everything else. Obviously it would have been I think he would have been a great signing for us. But the thing is he's, I believe they were both, him and his brother Sean, were born in Yorkshire, although they were raised obviously in Newcastle, right? They're both Newcastle fans. So really, at the end of the day, was he ever going to move? I mean, he might have rejected the contract. Obviously, they've come back with better terms, and he signed it. But you're not going to leave the club you support. I don't care who you are, unless the club are looking to sell you for mega money. You're not going to look to rock the boat and move away from the club you supported as a boy.
But the thing is, in fairness as well, you wouldn't actually refer to Newcastle as a small club or a tin pot club, would you? So, if anything, you'd probably be damaging your career if you did move away from there at this moment in time, wouldn't you? I would have thought.
Yeah.
So, moving on to another good news story, as they say. Victor Lindelof, Man United defender, thanked by Swedish police for catching thief. So Manchester United defender Victor Lindelof's been thanked by the Swedish police for catching a thief who robbed an elderly woman on Monday.
Yeah.
Occurred in his home city of Västerås, 62 miles west of Sweden's capital, Stockholm. Police said a man in his 30s riding a bike and snatched a bag belonging to a woman in her 90s. Lindelof is said to have run after the suspected perpetrator. In a statement, police said they wanted to take the opportunity and thank the witness for a quick and wise intervention to restore the plaintiff's property. The old woman was so made up, she apparently offered to buy him lunch, which I think is lovely.
It is lovely, mate. And the thing is like, people, let's focus on stories like this, not stories about, Harry Maguire negative kind of stories. All I would say is lovely story, and I just love the fact that the elderly lady offered to buy him lunch.
Absolutely right.
And I hope he actually took her up on it.
Yeah, he might play for Man United, but I hope he was humble enough to say, "I'd absolutely love to."
Yeah,
that'd be a very nice gesture, and what a better way to allow somebody to thank you. So hopefully he's humble enough to say yes to that. Yeah. Anyway, Norwich City have signed striker Jordan Hugill from West Ham in a deal that could be worth $5 million. The 28-year-old English forward signed a 2.5-year deal with the Canaries. Also, Swansea have signed Wolves midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White on a season-long loan. He made 7 Premier League appearances during 2019-20 and has played 70 games for Wolves. So, a couple of signings there, Mark, from lower down the pyramid, as I say.
Yeah. So basically, we have young Hugill, who's obviously he was at Preston originally, and he moved to West Ham. But obviously he couldn't sort of get involved in even the first team squad, never mind the first team there. Yeah. And obviously then got moved out on loan this season, QPR, where he had a good. Let's be honest, he's had a good, solid season there.
He's actually stated himself, "I've had my best scoring season in the Championship last year, and I can only improve on that. That was mainly playing the full season injured as well. Now I'm fully fit, raring to go. Hopefully I can improve on the 15 goals I scored last year and maybe reach the 20 mark." So that was from him directly.
Yeah, and 100%, because at the end of the day, Norwich would probably, the Canaries would probably be sitting there thinking to themselves, well, if he can recreate or do what he did at QPR again, throw in a few extra goals, that's going to take an awful lot of the burden off Tino Pukki.
Oh, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah, definitely.
And that's what the supporters and probably the board and everybody else connected with the Norwich, are hoping at the end of the day. Absolutely. And in regards to Morgan Gibbs-White, I can't believe it, mate, to be honest. I mean, he was coming on and playing games for Wolves, albeit as a substitute. Yep. He was part of the successful team that won, the World Cup. Can't remember whether it was the under-20. I think it might have been the under-17s, not the under-20s. But obviously, he's gone to Swansea. It's his old manager when he was playing for the England under-17s, because obviously Steve Cooper was involved in the setup there. And obviously, Steve Cooper is the son of Keith Cooper, the referee. So hopefully Steve Cooper can reignite him again. He is a quality act, Mark, I have to say. Any time I've ever seen him, I've been really impressed with him. So it's unfortunate that he's had to take the step down, but I'm hoping with Steve Cooper being there with him and given, what they achieved with England, that he can bring the best out of him again. And as we seen last season, it's not the first time that Steve Cooper's done that. Ryan Brewster, who was also part of the under-17 squad, won the World Cup. He brought him in on loan to Swansea last season, and he was scoring goals for fun. And eventually managed to help ultimately get them into the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how, Morgan Gibbs-White goes under Steve Cooper at Swansea.
Absolutely right. So we've got a couple of stories from the EFL which we'll go over now. Derby County EFL charges over spending rules dismissed. So Derby County have had charges relating to a breach of English Football League spending rules dismissed. The charges related to the valuation of Pride Park when it was sold to owner Mal Morris for 80 million, despite it previously being listed as worth 41. The sale led to a pre-tax profit of 14.6 million in 2017 to 18, which kept Derby within a 3-year cap of 39 million in losses. A charge over how the club measured the value of players called amortisation in their accounts was also dismissed. The finding means Derby will avoid a points deduction and fine, which could have come into play for the 2020-21 Championship season. We'll come back to that in a moment as well. We've also got all Championship, League One and League Two games made available to view. So all English Football League games will be available to watch from home, while matches continue to be played behind closed doors at limited capacity. A flexible framework's been agreed with Sky Sports to allow all games not televised live to be streamed online. EFL says it's a temporary measure that will be subject to regular review from early October. Under the agreement, season ticket holders will be able to stream their club's home matches with match passes also available for a £10 fee. So there's a couple of stories from the EFL then, Mark.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is the whole idea of the streaming, I mean, it's great, and I would like to see the same introduction for people who are season ticket holders of prospective clubs in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But it is good news, because obviously people want to be able to watch their team who are season ticket holders. And
That's
even if you're not season ticket holders, I mean, from what I've been told, you get, obviously, if you're not a season ticket holder, but you want to watch your club, you get charged that £10 or whatever it is fee.
Yeah.
And that fee, most of that fee goes directly back into the football club. So
That's right. Yeah.
It's a win-win, to be fair.
Absolutely right. And what do you make of the Derby situation?
The Derby situation, Mark, we've talked about this before, right? And, I warned you this decision was coming, right? But I was surprised that they got away with absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Because the thing is what people need to appreciate is they effectively did what Sheffield Wednesday did, right?
Yeah.
And Sheffield Wednesday got a 12-point deduction.
Oh, yeah, they got walloped.
Exactly the same thing.
They got walloped.
And all I would say is I just find it very strange. I'm not saying that Derby did the same fully committed offence, right?
Yeah.
But I do find it strange that there haven't been deducted some money.
Sure.
And I think if I remember rightly, you saying that there was a bit of a grey area there with Derby, but effectively what happened, people, was, right, you had owners of both Sheffield Wednesday and Derby, and they sold the stadiums, so the grounds basically, to one of their own subsidiary companies, and it was all in an attempt to avoid any incursion of financial fair play.
Yep, correct. Yeah, so basically they've broken the rules and they've tried to cover it up, is what it boils down to. Effectively, actually, what it boils down to. Let's not paper over it. No point spilling out all the jargon that they use or that the press use. Let's just say it as it is. They pulled a crafty one and they nearly got caught. Yeah, and they did get caught, but unfortunately they got away with it. Anyway, moving on to news about Charlton Athletic, Mark. A group of Charlton Athletic fans occupied the boardroom at the Valley to protest against ownership of the League One club. The Addicts were brought by East Street Investments in January, but the takeover was rejected by the English Football League this month. A group called Fans for Fans organised a peaceful demonstration outside the stadium on Saturday morning. Around 80 gained access to the ground as some entered the boardroom. Police attended the stadium, but said no offences were reported and no arrests were made. Force added it was liaising with staff at the ground to resolve the incident. Charlton Athletic have been contacted for a response but have yet to make. Fans in the boardroom displayed a large picture of a £1 coin, along with a banner reading, "Our pound is bigger and better than yours, E. Slout." Nimmer and Southall reportedly paid £1 to buy the club from previous owner Roland Duchesneau, who still owns the Valley and the club's training ground. Charlton supporters, part of the occupation, said, "Club of Charlton stature and history has been passed around for a quid. These people have no intention of doing good for the club, with no leadership, no ownership of that sort, we recognise. We're saying to ESI and EFL, we're not accepting this any longer." So, they're all up in arms there, Mark.
Yeah, I mean the thing is if you're a Charlton fan or an Addicts fan, you know, in terms of ownership, you've been through the mill, really. I mean,
yeah.
You know, Roland Chasney, he basically is a Belgian businessman, right? And
yeah.
You know, there was no investment going into the club, you know, and everything looked like it was going down the tubes. Then you had this new company come in, and there was a bit of a falling out between the two main protagonists. Yeah. And this is why it ended up being sold on the East Street Investments. Basically, their owner is a guy called Paul Elliott. You know, obviously they had to do, the EFL had to do a fit and proper persons thing on him, background check. And obviously they haven't approved them taking over the football club.
Yeah.
And obviously the Charlton supporters don't basically want them taking over the football club because obviously there's uncertainty about his ability to provide funds to move the club forward.
Yeah.
So that's why we had to sit in. And that's also why a few weeks ago, as we covered on the show, they went into his business premises up north, right, where he was actually about the interview the ex-Saints boss, David Jones.
Yeah, well, it's just madness, isn't it, really? Yeah, there's not a lot I can really add to that myself, because I don't know an awful lot more about that, and I have to, on this occasion, plead my ignorance on that. Anyway,
no worries, mate.
AFC Wimbledon will begin the 2020-21 League One campaign by ground sharing at Championship side Queen's Park Rangers. We're very grateful to QPR and to the EFL for their understanding, said Chief Executive Joe Palmer. Construction works proceeding well. We wanted to give ourselves some more breathing space to complete works and test events before playing our first match at Plough Lane. They signed their final construction contract for the stadium in May. The club have played at Kings Meadow since its inception in 2002, but agreed to sell the ground in Kingston-upon-Thames to Chelsea 4 years ago. Plough Lane is considered to be the spiritual home of AFC Wimbledon. The original Wimbledon FC played there before being forced to leave the ground in 1991. The original club subsequently shared Selhurst Park with Crystal Palace till they moved to Milton Keynes in 2003, were renamed MK Dons a year later. The new stadium is on the site of the now demolished Wimbledon Greyhound Stadium and will have an initial capacity of 9,300. Wish them all the best.
So effectively, it's next door to where the old Plough Lane was.
Yeah.
The Greyhound track was literally next door to it. I mean, I welcome it because obviously it means, you know, Wimbledon playing back in their spiritual borough of Merton in South London.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, they're having to do this just to make sure that the facilities are upgraded. And thankfully, you know, while it's, you know, a small capacity, you know, it'll be a much better facility than the previous Plough Lane, which was an absolute disaster of a place to go and play any sort of football. It was a disaster as a supporter as well, trust me.
Right. Yeah, so let's hope that they do well and then it all goes ahead. Anyway, moving on, Scottish football. Celtic are in talks with Motherwell over a move for David Turnbull. Manager Neil Lennon confirms. Also, Scottish clubs outside the Premiership will not be required to test their players for COVID-19 when they resume. So we'll cover over those ones quickly, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is it looks like the deal for for the Motherwell forward is going ahead, David Turnbull. It looks like that deal's going ahead. I have to say, Mark, we got linked with him, if you remember, in the January and also last August. And I have to say he's recovered from the injury because he was poised to sign for Celtic in January, but he got injured. Yeah. And he's come back from the injury really quickly because it looked like it was quite a serious one. Yeah. And he is a standout performer, trust me.
Yeah, thanks. Get in there.
In the Scottish Premier League, he's a really, really good player. So, I mean, it's a win-win for both clubs because Motherwell are always looking for money. And obviously, it swells the coffers. And, Celtic obviously need a few new faces before, the new season. And plus, Mark, one thing that I do want to point out about David Turnbull signing for Celtic is it opens up the possibility of Saints being able, because I believe because of that transfer, Olivier Nishan will now become much more available. Obviously, that's a position that David Turnbull would be taken up in the centre of midfield.
I agree with that. Yeah. I agree, definitely. Yeah, let's hope it does. That'd be good for us if they do. So, moving on to European football. Former Barcelona player Henrik Larsson has joined the club's coaching staff on a 2-year deal. Former FC20 and Hoffenheim head coach Alfred Schroeder has also joined Ronald Koeman's backroom team. So there we go. So that's a couple of there. And also, bad news for Barcelona in the fact that Lionel Messi has handed in a Barcelona transfer request. This is obviously off the back of Ronald Koeman, obviously recently said, and he's probably looking a little bit like he's got egg on his face and probably feeling like it, said he's the world's greatest player and you want him in your team rather than playing against you. And unfortunately, he's decided it's time to up sticks and leave Barcelona. So not great news for them. The other bit of news for European football, and we'll come back to anything Mark wants to go into in detail, obviously, is the fact that UEFA Super Cup fans to be allowed into the Puskás Arena for the UEFA Super Cup, which could be attended by 20,000 fans in Budapest as a trial. So the 68,000 seat Puskás Arena is due to have Bayern Munich facing Europa League winner Sevilla on the 24th of September. So up to 30% capacity of the stadium, apparently. So any of those you'd like to go back over, Mark?
I just found, just doing the stadium one very quickly, I just found that really interesting from the point of view as it's the first time that anybody has mentioned 30%.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a universal idea now that even from the very start, Mark, it's going to be 30% of the capacity of any stadium. So, I think it's a case of watch this space. But obviously, it'll be interesting to see how it goes because obviously it's before, supporters are going to be allowed back into the stadiums in this country. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But just going back to the other two articles very quickly, I mean, all I would say is I wish, Henrik Larsson well, going to the new his Barcelona post. Obviously, he's played for the club, and I would have thought that Ronald wants a bit of continuity there. You might find a few other ex-Barcelona players turning up there, in the backroom staff. So good luck, Hendrik. But the other thing I would say is the Lionel Messi one. I mean, I don't know where that's going to go, to be honest. I can still see him ended up playing for Barcelona because, as I see it, there's only 3 clubs in the world that probably could afford to be paying him.
Yeah, we'll have to do some more digging on this one, actually, ahead of next week's show to find out if anything comes of it or not. I did see a rumour floating around today that he's quite keen to link back up with Guardiola and that Man City might actually offer him a couple of years. So we'll have to see how that pans out and whether or not there's any truth to that.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is the more likely protagonist of the 3 is Man City. Yeah. But for me, there's only 3 clubs at the moment that could afford his wages. Yeah. Real Madrid's out because of the coronavirus pandemic. Liverpool ruled themselves out today.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would have been able to afford him anyway, because the 3 I was thinking of was City themselves, United, and PSG. Yeah. And those are the only 3 clubs that could feasibly afford, because the wages, And the thing is not just the wages, Mark. There's also the belief that one of those clubs may have to pay a transfer fee.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, just one last story to go over quickly, which is women's football links. Women's Super League, sorry. Arsenal's home match against Reading on the opening weekend of the new Women's Super League season will be live on BBC Red Button and BBC Sports website. The Gunners host the Royals at 12:30 BST on Sunday, 6th of September. And Champions Chelsea's first home game against Bristol City will be shown on the Red Button and website at 12:30 BST on Sunday, 13th of September. And promoted Aston Villa face Man City in the first game of the 2020-21 campaign on Saturday, 5th September. So important dates if you're following the women's game as well.
Yeah, I will be tuning into all of that because obviously, it's an education for me, mate. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to sit and watch the Women's FA Cup final, which the BBC used to show, and that was when I was a kid. And that was the only women's football they used to show. So the fact that on the back of the European Championship and the World Cup and all the coverage that there was of that, and I sat and watched that religiously, by the way, it's great news to see, women's football getting the exposure because, we can't all afford subscriptions to Sky or BT Sport.
We'll see how that all pans out, Mark. I know we've discussed it, haven't we, and spoke about the possibility of hoping there's going to be some Lionesses football at St Mary's and we can get down there and watch a little bit. So let's hope that happens.
Indeed.
Right. Well, that brings us really well to the end of that section as well for today's podcast show. So we'll take another short break, and when we come back from that, we'll be into the last section of today's podcast, which is Saints transfer news and gossip. We'll be right back.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, Saints transfer news and gossip. So, Southampton are yet to table an offer for reported Schalke midfielder target Weston McKennie, who's also been linked with a move to Everton, according to The Athletic. So, the 21-year-old midfielder is expected to leave Schalke this summer with a move to England to believed to be on the cards. Saints and Everton have been credited with an interest in him, and Schalke would be unable to turn down a substantial proposal due to the financial situation. The players also hinted he'd like to come to the Premier League as well. Unfortunately, we might be facing some slightly stiffer competition on that front as well, and the fact that the other story that relates to this as well, because there's two stories relating to Weston McKennie, is Italian champions Juventus have made contact with Schalke in a bid to sign Saints target Weston McKennie. So, bit of a blow if Juventus come in for him, because chances are, if Juventus come in there, that's the end of that, isn't it? So, what do you make of those two stories?
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, I would say yes, but then I look at the actual deal that they're talking about. They're talking about a £3 million loan deal for the season.
That's correct.
And then paying, I think it's 18 million quid or somewhere around there.
Where the hell are Saints?
For his services if it's successful.
Yeah.
And I mean, all I would say is £3 million for a loan for Saints. It's no risk, no foul. While I recognise that it is Juventus, it is something that we could do plausibly because obviously you're just taking him on loan. So you've got his contract.
The thing is, I have
paying his wages for us.
I mean, I did give this a little bit of thought, and I thought if Juventus is saying they're going to pay like $3 million for a loan with the option of buying him for 18 million, yet Saints have been rumoured to have been saying, well, we'll give you 20 million. Why on earth would the Schalke say no to a 20 million deal and yes to 3 million from Juventus? Because the maths doesn't add up, does it?
But Mark,
surely they'd take the 20 million, wouldn't they?
Mark, you're missing the first story. The first story says we haven't tabled the bid.
No, I appreciate that. All I'm saying is, if an offer was to come in of that magnitude, which the rumours are that's happened, it obviously hasn't because we haven't seen anything official. But if that was to be the figure, Schalke would be mad to turn it down, wouldn't they? But obviously that hasn't happened as yet, and I agree with you on that.
It's the belief by all fans that because it appears on Sky Sports News that we've bid 20 million, we must have done. But obviously we haven't bid the 20 million. But like I said, I just look at that story and think to myself, well, that is a perfect opportunity for us, As Les Reed used to say when it came to Toby Alderweireld, try before you buy.
Absolutely right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, we did it with Carl Walker-Peters, and he turned out to be. It looks like he's going to be a good signing for us. And we obviously did the same with Danny Ings, and he's turned out to be all right. So yeah, it's probably the way to go, to be fair. Anyway, we'll move on from that one because obviously that's not a goer at the moment. Not sure if this next one will be either due to the fee, but we'll have a chat about that anyway. Saints are broadening their search for Pierre-Emile Højbjerg's replacement, with 25 million rated Stuttgart enforcer Orel Mangala, the latest man linked according to reports from Echo 24. While it seems Ralph Hasenhüttl and co are prioritising another German-based ball winner, it makes sense to hedge their bets somewhat. Sky claimed last week Saints had opened talks with Schalke over a potential £20 million deal. No, we haven't. So Sky got that one wrong. But considering that what seems like half the Premier League have been linked with McKenna over the last few weeks, Saints need alternative options. One of those appears to be Mangala, 22-year-old Belgian. Despite spending last season in the second tier of German football, expected to cost around £5 million more than Schalke are demanding to their prized asset. 25 million seems a bit steep, Mark. Given that we don't seem to have that sort of cash available.
All I would say, Mark, is we reported Saints' interest in Mangala a couple of weeks ago.
That's right. That's right.
And a couple of weeks ago, they were quoted as saying that £8 to £10 million would see the deal.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we've jumped up to 25 million quid. I mean, I've got to say this, right? Mangala to me is probably the better option, Kenny, right? And I say that because he played in the Germans' top league, right? And, you know, obviously Stuttgart then got relegated. He's played in the second division, you know, this last season, and obviously they've got promoted.
Yeah.
You know, he's a Belgium under-21 international, so he fits the mould.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I would tend to go for him, but not at 25 million.
I'd agree.
At the price that they were talking about. I mean, I accept that it's probably going to be a little bit more than what was reported, you know, 8 to 10 million. You know, I would probably stretch the price to about 12 million.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you.
Where we go from there.
Yeah, I agree with you. So we move on to this story. I don't think this is going to happen at all, but this is obviously this guy. Obviously, if Les Reed was still at the club, you'd be thinking, yeah, okay, maybe there's an element of truth to it. But the fact that Les Reed isn't at the club any longer probably means that this won't happen. Stoke City could offload Jack Butland to Southampton this summer, with Angus going potentially heading the other way to link up Michael O'Neill's side. I don't think so.
No, I mean, look, to me, it's just a nonsense. I mean, again, today, right, there was quotes from Michael O'Neill, the Stoke City manager, and obviously he's quite keen to keep hold of him. But, you know, obviously if he's in the issue why this has been flagged up, Mark, as well, it's right. It was flagged up by a journalist that works for the Times, and we all know what a great, you know, football paper that is.
Yeah.
Now, and he obviously, you know, he must have been caught in a time warp. You know, he's done a life on Mars, this journalist, because he's looking at a story from about 3 seasons ago. When Les Reed was, you know, king at Southampton, and he was keen on bringing Jack Butland here. Exactly. But I don't believe there's any legs in this story whatsoever, just based on the fact that, you know, we've got the young pretender in Angus Gunn.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you, you know, the idea is it's a swap deal according to this Times journalist, right? I mean, but why would you then have 3 senior keepers at the football club all vying for the number 1 spot?
But not only that, if you had that situation, you'd probably find Fraser Forster would be hot-footing it back to Celtic, banging on the door going, look, I know you signed this other guy, but I want to come back, let me in. You know, Alex McCarthy would be sat there scratching his head going, what on earth are they doing? I mean, Jack Butland would be sat there going, why on earth have I moved from Stoke?
We're talking about
here. Crazy.
The bottom line for me is we're talking about 3, you know, recently England international goalkeepers, right? We're talking about 3 of them, and I just don't see that being a competition where Saints, because you know Jack Butland's wages is going to be a hell of a lot more than Angus Gunn. So why would Saints do it? They have other priorities, you know, other priority positions and other transfer targets that are way more important than bringing in another experienced goalkeeper.
Absolutely right. And that brings that link to a really brilliant end. Well done. Made my life a lot easier going to the next one. Southampton face fight for Darwin Núñez. Italian publication Calcio Mercato are reporting that Southampton have been joined by numerous clubs in their pursuit of Darwin Núñez. Widely linked with the UD Almeria striker for several weeks, it seems to have been that Saints have had this their own way for a period of time. However, they've now been joined by Bundesliga side Wolfsburg, as well as fellow Premier League clubs Sheffield United and Brighton and Hove Albion in the race for the forward. Having reportedly already made an offer of 12 million for the Uruguayan, Ralph Hasenhüttl will remain confident of landing his man.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm going to say on this one, Mark, is, right, and I believe that bids had been made, both from ourselves, Brighton, Benfica and Wolfsburg. These are the four main protagonists, right? Apparently, we had made an offer. Benfica are rumoured they have made an offer as well. That was believed to be around 12 million, right? They're holding out for 25 million euro bid. I don't see that happening. I don't see anybody offering that kind of money. I believe that the player's preferred option is to go to Benfica.
Yeah.
So even if we've offered, apparently we're going to go back and offer again. Ourselves, yep. Brighton and Benfica are all talking about going back and offering again. Because apparently we've all made around £12 million bids for him. So we'll have to wait and see how it transpires. But obviously it's someone that the club are definitely interested in.
Yeah. Right, moving on to another player from Serie A. Southampton manager Ralph Hasenhüttl was believed to be targeting a move for Sampdoria defender Bartosz Berezinski, according to Italian newspaper Tuscolo XX. The Polish defender looks set to be allowed to leave the Serie A club this summer, although Saints joined by Scottish champion Celtic and shown an interest in him. 28-year-olds equally adept at playing either as a right back or centre half, and would provide much needed versatility to the manager Ralph Hasenhüttl's defensive options. There's that one. They're also linked with another player from Sampdoria, Omar Colley, Mark, and Saints have apparently made a £16 million bid. So both those defenders from Sampdoria. Are we bringing them both in, or are we just going for one? Are we being greedy here, or what? I'm a little bit confused.
I mean, all I would say about that is, I mean, on when you look at it, can we afford, unless we're moving Vestergaard out, which I don't believe. I actually think we're going to be going in with the four centre backs we have now, to be fair.
But they're giving him a number 4 shirt, so that doesn't tell you he's moving anywhere anytime shortly, does it?
Well, no, I mean, look, that doesn't indicate anything. If an appropriate bid comes in, the club would sell. But it's my belief that we're going to go in probably to bat with the 4 centre halves that we have currently on the first squad books. But having said all that, Mark, Omar Colley, I don't believe we're going to spend big on another centre half, right?
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think the club would do that, right? I mean, if the situation arose where Vestergaard went for, say, 15 million, then obviously that then becomes a possibility, right? The other thing that sort of intrigues me is with the Polish centre-back, we've got a Polish player at the football club, so you'd sit there and you'd think, well, those two might work in tandem well. Yeah. And the thing is it wouldn't be for an expensive fee, you're probably talking about around 5 million quid. I mean, Sampdoria only bought him for a reported £2 million. So anything that they can make on, and the fact obviously as well, that, they've got Omar Colley there. I mean, they're not going to sell both of them to us anyway. But all I'm saying is you've got one that's a more expensive option, one that's a cheaper option. You've got a Polish player there, so they might be able to build up an understanding, him and Bednarek at the back,
Right.
But I still think any centre-back signing, whether it's Omar Colley, and I'm not against Colley, but his age is against him, but then the Polish lad's age is against him as well. I do wonder about some of these stories some of the time, because obviously people are not following the Southampton blueprint.
But the thing is, Mark, I look back to the thing is as well. I look back to one of our most successful spells in the 80s under Laurie Mack, and to be fair, the team was made up of experienced players and youngsters. So I don't think that's a bad way to go. To be fair, maybe that's what they've looked at. I don't know, but
no, I don't. And it's all about affordability. You know, I mean, the thing is let's be honest about this whole thing, right? Nothing's going to happen unless Vestergaard gets sold. Okay, none of these two are coming in, so it's probably a non-starter, but it'll become live, obviously, if Vestergaard does move out over there.
Relating to players coming in, it also depends on players going out, and that brings us brilliantly on to the last two articles for today's show, which are actually relating to transfer routes. And that is the fact that Fulham are allegedly closing in on a double deal to sign Southampton midfielder Mario Lemina on loan. It's alleged that he's actually going to be going to Fulham, following on from Harrison Reed going there as well. So it looks as though both of them could be off to Fulham. A lot of Saints fans think you must just sell a bloke and get rid of him, but it might be a loan's the only option. But strange move, that one for me, Mark.
I mean, I think the thing is, Mark, so Harrison Reed going to Fulham for $8 million. I mean, it was probably always going to be the case even over this summer. I know that there's fans that have been crying out and saying, why not give him a go, you know? But it's obvious for whatever reason, Hasenhüttl sort of thinks the money would be useful to the Saints, and he probably wants to try and get, you know, and this is no offence to Harrison Reed, but get a more mobile player, and probably a bit more of an upgrade, to be honest, because obviously he's lost Højbjerg, so he needs somebody with a bit of a reputation in there.
Definitely.
So £8 million, decent enough business for the football club. And then we come to Mario Lemina. I mean, the thing is there's no doubt in the guy's ability, right? And obviously Fulham's looked at it, and they obviously think that they can bring the best out of him, okay? Unfortunately, we have struggled to bring the best out. Well, the biggest problem was his head got turned in the summer, and then none of these moves, the Arsenal or Man United, came to fruition. Hence, he's now in the backwater that is, you know, Turkish football. You know, but all I would say is obviously Fulham have seen him in his pomp and thought to himself, he's a player, and he is a player on his day, and I personally wish him well, but he's not a fit for Southampton Football Club, because we're a club, you know, I say to you about injuries every season, a couple of injuries, and our season could be stuffed, right? Similarly, with a club like ours, you need everyone pulling in the same direction. And unfortunately, Mario does not fit that mold of pulling in the same direction.
Agree with you 100%. So moving on to another story, which I think is an absolute nonsense story, and I certainly hope it is anyway. Tottenham are looking to improve their midfield options this summer. According to Soccerlink, they're looking at two Premier League midfielders as potential targets. Saints midfielder James Ward-Prowse and Leicester City's Wilfred Ndidi are targets Jose Mourinho's side this summer. Be interesting to see if Tottenham submit offers for two midfielders in the coming weeks. Be quite surprised if they decide to move for both players, especially after signing Højbjerg from Southampton. That paragraph sums the whole article up for me, and I sat there and read that. And after reading that, I thought, why did you even read the article? Why did you even write the article? Sorry. Wrote it. Why did you even write the article? Stupid. It's lazy journalism, in my opinion.
All I'll say is, you know, I only included the article because Saints fans for a few hours went into an absolute meltdown about it. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, well, you know, because I have to do the research for our podcast. You know, I'm sat there and I was struggling to find the link for it, right? I actually struggled to find the link for the story. So it wasn't being broadcast by any of the main players. You know, I had to you know, dig deep to find it.
Certainly, Saints fans out there, any rumours you do see and you do hear, if you don't see it confirmed by an official source of some kind, then you can probably bet 10 to a dozen it's probably not accurate. There are accurate sources you can find and can follow, and you'll soon realise which ones those are, because I certainly have. I've opened my eyes to the sources that are good to follow and those that aren't. So if you listen to the podcast, you'll certainly pick up on the organisations and areas that me and Mark believe should be followed and those that shouldn't. But I just thought it was a nonsense story, to be fair.
I mean, all I would say is, I mean, just on the practical side and to try and put people's minds at rest, I'm sure people have got over the meltdown now that was going on for those couple of hours. But suffice to say, James Ward-Prowse has just signed a 5-year contract, right? And if the club decided to whack him up for sale, there'd be a lot of unhappy fans out there. And given the amount of work and promotion that he does because he came through the academy and all the rest of it, it wouldn't reflect well on the club if he's just, the ink's not even dry on the contract and they're sitting there going, oh, let's sell him to Tottenham. Come on. How realistic is that? I mean, the club would be shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, admittedly, if there was an offer that blew anything out of the water, then fair enough. But
you're going to get that from
I just don't see that happening for James Ward-Prowse at the minute. Yeah, I mean, let's see. The other thing I would say is, Mark, is, right, he had a brilliant season last season, and if he builds on it this season, okay, then there is a possibility, next summer that he might move for significant money. Right?
There is one thing I think everyone's overlooking with this. How does anyone know if he wants to even move? He might be quite happy where he is, thank you very much, and not wanting to move.
I think he probably is, but a lot of the time, I know players have a lot of the say a lot of the time, but usually if a club gets a significant offer, the player doesn't have any choice really.
I get that.
But having said that, like I said to you, it's not happening this summer. It would only probably happen if he had another significant season next.
You and I are not naive enough to think that no player will ever leave Saints. But anyway, I interrupted you there, Mark. I do apologise. Carry on with what you were saying.
No, all I was going to say was, it makes no sense that he signed a new contract. He is part of and I don't like using these words, but I'm going to say it. He's part of brand Southampton, if you like, i.e. the football club and everything. And he's the beacon, really, that carries the football club. I mean, I know people go on about Danny Ings and him being the hometown boy, but I'm talking about from the perspective that James Ward-Prowse has been at the club since he was 8, and that's significant. And obviously, the other thing is I don't want to miss out on him, doing his testimonial, because I think it's going to be richly deserved, and I want to see him do the 10 years and even longer with Saints.
Yep, fair enough.
There's a lot to be said for players that actually see out the whole of their careers, and do a immaculate, especially in this day and age, because they're few and far between.
So he ends up being a one club man. Let's hope he does that. Be nice to see him finish his career, and as you say, nice to see him get a testimonial. But that wraps it all up for me, to be fair. I think that also probably wraps up today's podcast, which has been absolutely rammed full of absolutely everything. We've got through an awful lot of stuff. I'd just like to thank everyone, obviously, for listening in today. And just to remind you, your ways of accessing the Two Saints podcast are, if you go onto our Facebook page, The Two Saints Show, you can send a message to us directly on there requesting our podcast, or you can listen to it via that page. You can also catch us via our YouTube channel, The Two Saints Podcast Show. You can also contact us on our new show email, which is the Two Saints Show podcast at hotmail.com. And you can also check us out via Acast and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So that's all from myself, Mark C.
Yeah, and that's it from me, just to say to people, until next week, thanks for listening and look after each other. Keep safe, keep well, and yeah, all the best, people. Bye for now.
Yeah, and also just two final things from me. Number one, stay tuned. We'll be giving out details next week of our new exciting feature. We're actually going to be launching a Two Saints Show Fantasy Football League, and we'll be giving you details of that next week. So obviously tune into next week's podcast, or if you're fortunate enough to catch us on the radio, tune into our broadcast next week and catch it on there. And join us again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again.